Welcome to the Lab of Life podcast. I'm your co host, Raluca, energy healer, intuitive homeopath, and inner voice guide.
And I'm Lena, scientific mystic and metapsychologist. We're here to explore spirituality, ancient wisdom, and cutting edge science to optimize our human experience.
Life is complex, and we're here to simplify it for you by sharing practical insights and strategies that will inspire and empower you to unlock your full potential. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lab of Life podcast. Today, we're going to talk all about journaling. We're going to talk about what journaling is, what it's good for, some resistance you might have with journaling, because I know it's not easy for everybody. Some of us have a hard time with it. We're going to talk about different ways to journal and what can help you start journaling.
I'm still struggling with that, and even though I used to journal when I was a teenager, but now reading about the struggles and why people don't journal and why this technique is so difficult, I understand. I almost can see that everything I was writing is almost like I was writing for somebody to read. So it was
Ooh.
very perfectly done, very artistically done. Like I almost was writing like I'm writing a book instead of just simply putting my thoughts on the paper. And now I think that's the resistance. Like I don't really want to do that. I don't want to
Mhm.
write just so people can see it, and I cannot overcome that perfectionism. But yeah, we can get into that
That's
in
right.
a little bit.
I've written before in ways too that would be like, oh, if somebody was to read this, like, you're writing a story and you have to do the background information, like, oh, today I did this and this and this, and this person said that, and I felt this way. Um, so there
Yeah.
was a time where I wrote like that, but now it's just messy and raw, and it's different, a different type of journaling for me every day, just on depending on what I need.
Yeah. So what is journaling? So let's give a little bit of a definition. Well, the dictionary says that journaling is the practice of regularly recording personal thoughts, feelings, and experiences in a written format. It's also a form of self expression, reflection, where individuals document their innermost thoughts, ideas, and events in their lives. But what is journaling for you? Like, what is it for you? What would be your definition?
Ooh, my definition. I guess the journaling for me is just a reflection practice. It's a way to get to know ourselves better and observe ourselves more. It's like a way to explore our inner world in a safe space.
Yeah, I guess it would. So it is a practice. So it is a tool of self discovery. It's sort of like a self discovery tool.
That's right.
One of them. Yeah. And so there are different types of journaling. And while I was doing the research, while we were doing research, we found out that it actually has a lot of the already known benefits to the science. There has been many studies done, and there's different types of journaling that display the benefits. But I think overall, it just when we don't express ourselves, when we don't really, we have something's happening to us and it's mainly in our head, we can get stuck there. So I always feel that if we put it on paper, it's almost like we are downloading things out of our heads into the, like, like in the computer, you can download it in the shared drive and it's no longer taking the space. So you're almost like a freeing space in your head to for for the information to be processed better. And of course, when we are doing this process, we can see from an outside perspective what is happening with us. It's like twofold, but there's tons and tons of benefits.
Okay. So some benefits of journaling, like we talked about, it helps with self-discovery. As we're writing down our thoughts and our beliefs, and we're observing what we're writing down, we start to understand ourselves better. Other benefits include personal reflection, which ties in with that. It's also a form of creativity, like to express yourself creatively, to express your thoughts in a creative way. It's like it's your playground, right? It's just the space that you have just for yourself, and you can express yourself in any way you want.
Hmm.
It can also help with problem solving. So, for example, if you're trying to figure out a solution to a situation, or you're trying to understand a situation, you can write out what happened, you can write out the challenges, the dilemmas, and you can, by writing it all down and observing it, it's like allows you to have a bird's eye view to the situation, and it can give lead you to having more clarity and insights. And also, even if you don't know the solution yet, just by writing it down and then asking to find a solution opens up your awareness to find for that solution to come in, for you to observe it when it comes across your consciousness.
Yeah, it
um,
definitely creates like a clarity of thought. So it helps you to separate emotions from the actual facts and understand even what you feel and what was happening. So it does help us to identify and regulate emotions, which, when we do know how to regulate our emotions, it gives a lot of physical benefits. Like it lowers stress, lowers the blood pressure, like improves mood, so that helps reduce depression symptoms, and just kind of like improves overall well-being. And we were looking into this specific practice which called expressive writing, that has been studied by James Pennebecker, and who created like a specific protocol to help kind of like process emotions around traumatic events. So sort of like solve the trauma issues for you. So the way he does it, the way the studies has been done, is you write something about something traumatic, an event, or um, you write about some traumatic event, or even something that's like something that was annoying you, for 15 to 30 minutes, 4 days in a row, or like four times. If they have been doing it 4 days in a row, but you actually can spread it out. That the studies now have shown that it's okay to spread it out like once a week, right? But it has to be at least 15 minutes. And you write about it in a certain way. So you first identify what happened, who are the people, and there's like certain specific rules to that writing. But it does show incredible results in people resolving those traumas, like really working and healing those traumas within themselves. And what's interesting about this particular scientist, that how he came up with that, right? He has a book, and I also was watching a couple of videos. He, as a child, had an asthma that would become worse around certain family members. And he, when he was older, he was like, I don't know what's happening, because he started like looking into it, and he identified that he was actually traumatized by those family members. So when he would come close to them, there would have been emotional response that turned into the physical response, such an asthma. And when he was started doing the journaling, that was healed within him. So it shows that we can not only heal emotional traumas, but also it is possible to heal and resolve some of the physical symptoms, which kind of proves our theory that all emotions, everything that we feel, it can be stored in us as a physical disease.
yeah, I like that example. And I also use journaling for emotional release a lot. This is actually what ends up happening a lot because I'm a very emotional person. I don't use a specific practice like that. I use it very intuitively, but I do feel release as I'm writing things out, as I'm processing things that are happening or what I'm feeling or even what's coming up without it making sense. And anytime I'm releasing, I'll either cry and I'll have an emotional response, or I
Mhm.
yawn a lot. So whenever I'm writing about something that's emotional or I'm processing through, I just end up yawning like crazy. And that is my big sign that I am releasing energetically and emotionally, like I'm releasing it out of my body.
That's amazing. And this particular expressive writing practice, or this is even like, it's almost like a protocol, right? It's like a doctor prescribing to you what to do. They say, and we will leave the protocol itself, if you're interested to explore it, we will leave in our notes. But he says that on the first time, you might not even really like. There are two different type of people. Somebody who like expresses a lot, like they're expressive people, and somebody who doesn't really express themselves quite. And then it interesting that sometimes they invert. So people who express themselves, they start expressing on the first day and then the second day, but then it kind of dies down. They get a little bit more calm about their expression. And then it becomes the opposite for people who don't really like or know how to express themselves. Like first, it could be just a couple of sentences that they don't know what to write about, but then they become super expressive at the end and really identifying what happened to them and releasing those emotions and healing the trauma that have happened to them. Just thought it was really interesting.
Yeah, it is a really powerful tool.
So this is just one of the um, type of journaling, but there's several very impactful types of journaling, such as gratitude practice. We can also just have like a gratitude journal, which is super simple, and you just do it either in the morning or in the evening or throughout the day, and concentrate on the gratitude and what you are grateful for that day, which is again, numerous scientific studies have proven that just practicing gratitude daily improves your overall well-being, and not just emotional but physical as well.
So some things that journaling is good for, some benefits it can have for us is that it helps us get clear on our thoughts and emotions. It helps our self-discovery. It helps us process our thoughts, and when we're overthinking, it helps us release, whatever we're holding on to our mind. It's a great tool for release. It can help us in processing emotions, like we said. It can help in problem solving and figuring out our next steps, and can help us understand whatever we're going through from an observer's perspective and give us clarity in how to move forward. And it also has health benefits.
I do want to add that, so also Pennebecker was saying that even the fact that you identify emotions and sort of like identify what really happened, it's like 50% it heals you already. Like it's a great deal of healing just by identifying what's going on, which sort of like confirms the theory that we have talked about numerous times in our podcasts about affect labeling, where when you feel some emotions and you really out of like emotions just overtake you, if you label that emotion, if you say I am angry right now, it cuts down the energetic charge in like 50% or more. Sometimes they can remove it completely. As soon as you know what's going on, you sort of transfer that information from your like a monkey brain, right, from your amygdala, from the place where we all just stressed out and we don't know why, into your cognitive portion of your brain, into your frontal lobe. And then your brain is not as stressed anymore or as fearful about that emotion. And like, oh, it's anger, I know what to do with anger, we've been angry before. So the effect labeling is an extremely powerful tool for those who struggle with emotions, who struggle with processing emotions properly. So the only thing, the first step that you need to do, and a very, very powerful step, is just to identify the emotion or what's happening to you. The same thing goes with journaling. When emotions overtake us, right? When the pain of from the event and from whatever happened, from the trauma, takes over our monkey brain, right? Our brain that is very primitive, and we are anxious or afraid or feeling a whole bunch of emotions that we cannot process properly. By identifying those emotions and especially putting them on paper, creates this feeling of safety within our brain, within our body. It makes us further process those emotions and remove them completely without creating any physical disease.
Yeah. And we can all do that. We just need a pen and
It's
paper. It's accessible
yeah,
to us.
such a simple tool. And the other thing about this protocol is like you don't even have to keep those journals. You literally just like download, and you can destroy them if you're really worried about somebody's finding them or reading them. But I find that it's really interesting to go back and kind of like look over and see what jumps out at you, like what really you were concentrating on and what was going on. Because after you download all of that, it's no longer in you and you're no longer affected by it as much as you were when you started writing the journal, which is often happen. But sometimes you have to repeat it a couple of times in order to really release whatever is bothering you.
Yeah, some people suggest not to look back and reread like painful situations or entries that you wrote where you was like feeling emotional. I think it's different once you fully healed from the situation and fully release that emotion, then you're not affected by it and you can look at it as an observer. But if it's not fully healed, then it can bring up those feelings all over again.
I also wanted to add that the key point of it is not to worry about perfection, which I think is the key point of journaling in general. Just write whatever is writing and don't worry about like making mistakes or, misspelling things. Just kind of go with with the flow, whatever it takes you. But and I have such a hard time with journaling, specifically even with this journal. And I have been, since I find out about this protocol, I have been trying to like work up to doing it. Even last night I was like walking around and I had some time to do it, but I'm like, no, I just like, I'm already emotional. This Mercury retrograde is really like over the top, intensified everything that I need to deal with. And I'm like, I'm gonna add this thing and it's just gonna like rip me apart. I don't want to do it. So I already know the impact. I know that it's going to be difficult in the process, but yeah, I'm like sort of like putting away like dentist appointment, just like, let's do it next week, let's not gonna do it this week.
But maybe it having that structure and those rules is part of what's making it um, like hard to reach right now. Maybe you don't even have to follow any rules. Just you just journal whatever you want. Just write it
No,
out.
I'm afraid that the emotional impact. I'm that in this sense, like rules just don't really bother me, even though I am against the rules and I always try to defy the rules and break the rules and things like that. But in this particular case, I am really afraid. Like I know if I start like touching it, like pouring out, like if you start digging or putting like picking the pimple on your face, it's gonna get even more irritated. So this is what I'm fearful of. It's like, oh. But on the other hand, I will get the relief, but I don't know how impactful the process will be. So that's why I'm delaying it. Which it could be not impactful at all. It could be absolutely easy and enjoyable, but because I'm worrying about that, I'm delaying the process.
But just start anywhere. Start small. You don't have to start with the process. You could just start with how you're feeling or something.
Yeah, and that's what I was exploring yesterday and the day before preparing for this podcast. Like, what is the real reason for me have to have such resistance to journaling? Because it's this is such a simple tool and very like you don't have to be journaling for hours, right? You can just journal for 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 1 minute, one word, anything that's come out of you. So I found a few factors, which I think, I don't know, I mean, maybe you can tell me, you know me. So perfectionism, that I really worry about not doing it right, which I kind of think that this could be the case, but also I don't know. I don't know if I know that nobody will read it if I really worry about that. But it could be on the background. The second one is fear of judgment, which I know nobody will read it, but I will read it. Like I could read it. I know what I wrote, and I will judge myself, which is so ridiculous. But when I read it, I'm like, oh, that's totally could be the case. And the other thing is emotional impact. Like you're afraid that something will come out that you don't know that was there, and it could be really emotionally impactful. Physical discomfort. I'm totally fearing the physical discomfort from the emotions that come up from it. Overthinking. I think that's like a number one thing for me, that I overthink everything before I do it. Again, comes to the perfectionism. And I guess lack of motivation, because this particular tool, it doesn't really have like a tangible result, right? You don't really know what's going to come out at the end of it. It's not like you wash the dishes are clean. There's a tangible result. But with this, it's like you don't really know what to expect. You don't know how long you're going to journal. You don't know what's going to come out. You don't know how you're going to feel, and things like that. So that could be like really demotivating for me. And I'm a dopamine driven person, so it has to be some sort of tangible results. It's hard for me to enjoy the process itself. But none of those reasons um, like really stand up for me for to have such resistance. So maybe it's just a structure, maybe it's just something that I don't know. What do you think? What would your ideas be? Like, why is it so hard for some people to journal?
Why is this hard? Well, I'll tell you about how I started journaling and how it was hard for
Yeah.
me at the beginning. So I started journaling about 7 years ago. I tried a few times when I was younger, but I actually had a hard time because I felt like I didn't have like real privacy. It didn't feel like safe when I lived with my parents. I felt like my journal would be found and it would be read, and I didn't feel safe journaling. So when I moved out and I moved in with my husband, who's my boyfriend then, like then I started feeling like I had that safety. But when I started journaling, it was really, really, really hard for me. I felt I I felt like I didn't trust my journal. I felt like it was in a safe space. I had that feeling that it was in a safe space. And when I would start writing, it's like I didn't know what direction to go in, and my thoughts felt fragmented. Like whenever I would write something out, it felt like it didn't even create a cohesive picture, and it just felt yeah, overwhelming and fragmented, and it didn't make sense. And I started what helped was like starting with little prompts, like little prompts of how I felt that day or goals that I was working towards, or I don't remember what other prompts were. But there's so many available on the internet, right? So I would just like I would somebody would pop up that would inspire me, and I would follow those prompts. And now I just journal about everything and anything. I'll journal, it depends on the day. Like or I'll journal, I'll process something or write about what happened in a day, or I'm processing an old memory that came up and I'm trying to see what why it came up right now. Or sometimes I do work on prompts if I'm working on a certain goal, but now it has no rules. Now it's just messy and fabulous. And I've also worked on not judging myself about it, um, because I realized that my thoughts are not me. Like those thoughts, they're just old beliefs or programming or whatever is in there that's trying to be processed. It's not me. So you could just write out whatever. Or if you're angry at somebody, just like write it all out. And it's not really us. And we have to let ourselves just feel and express those things and remember they're not us. So that's the big part about judgment, that we have to remember we're not our thoughts or our emotions. We're the observer just seeing it all happen.
Yeah, I do think that's the big part of it. But I was also just thinking it's like with mindfulness, right? For me, it was really hard to start meditating and just sitting in the meditation because it felt like a waste of time. It didn't feel, again, there's like, you cannot really touch and feel and physically comprehend what does this sitting in mindfulness for 10 to 30 minutes to an hour a day, what does it really give you? So that was always a struggle for me because this is like waste of time. And it does feel that is a similar issue here. Like it feels like I cannot really see the results, so this is a waste of time.
Well,
But
you don't see the results immediately, but you see
mhm,
them after like
over
a few
time,
weeks. If you're
yes.
if you're observing, if you're keeping an eye out, you realize you're seeing it differently. Ooh, one of the most powerful things that I found was like journaling on that I could see the results was when you journal on a situation that happened, when you write out a situation that happened that you didn't like the way it went. And then you can look at, oh, like what didn't I like here and how would I have liked it to go differently? And how would I like to act next time, or if this happened again? And then because you thought about it, you wrote it out, you set that intention. When that situation arises again, you are going to act differently because you
Mhm.
reflected on it. So that's a way that journaling like helped, and you see results right away.
Yeah, and I do think there are like many journals with prompts already
Hmm.
pre-existing prompts. If some for somebody who wants to start with something, you can kind of buy those journals, and then they ask you questions that you can answer, which I think makes it a little bit easier to like start training that muscle.
Yeah.
But overall, it has to be like a free writing. You just sort of like take a piece of paper and pour out everything that comes out of you
Yeah.
for it to
Yeah.
have a good tangible effects.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the person. Some people like the free and flowing. Some people need a little bit of structure, or we go through
Mhm.
different times.
Yeah, I think what helps to start, same as with mindfulness meditation or any type of meditation, start small.
Hmm.
Uh, and without any expectations, just create a routine. Just say, I'll be doing this for 5 days. 5 days, every day, 5 minutes. I'm just going to sit down in front of the piece of paper and just see what comes out. You might, nothing might come out. You might just sit there and like write nothing, or write one word, or write, today's the weather was nice.
Hmm.
um, it will help if you have some prompts or topics, which I would suggest. From me, what's working for me, it's the gratitude journal. Like, I would select 3 things that I'm grateful for, and I would, every morning I would just start writing, I'm grateful for those 3 things today. Or you can do it in the evening. It might be easier in the evening when you have a whole day behind you. You're like, okay, those 3 things I'm grateful for today. It also could be, what are the other types of journaling? You can have like planning, like, some sort of a wish journal, right? Where you can write out, this is what I would like for me to happen this year, or things like that.
Yeah.
And
People have
just
like manifestation journals
manifestation journals,
or
yes.
business journals, like goal journals. Some people have journals just where they write like inspirational quotes or like inspirational things that they saw and like expand on it, or
Mhm.
journals based on books you're reading. There's so many different ways you can journal: art journal, bullet journals.
Yeah. So as I said, some already, those have those journals that have prompts. You can just buy them, or you can create your own prompts and stick to it. Like this week, I'm just going to be writing about, I don't know, thing that happened to me that I enjoyed. Or this week, I'm going to be writing for something that was painful for me, and I just need to put it down on paper and things like that. So whatever is like, whatever bothering you right now, or whatever. No, that's not. Let's not say that. Let's say
Whatever
maybe,
feels alive for you right now.
yeah, whatever feels alive for you right now, that will come out, and that's probably what needs to come out into the journal.
Yeah, it's coming to the forefront of your consciousness for a reason, and it wants to be processed. And
Mhm.
we can't see it clearly when it's in our mind. We're just going in circles and we think we make sense, but then you actually put it down on paper and you're like, wait, what's happening in there?
Mhm.
And then it's easier to process or to like see what's going on.
Yeah. But it does help to make it as a routine. So if you have a special place which you can go to, like maybe connect it to the, like how to create the habit you already, if you connect it to already existing habit, it's easier for it to stick. So maybe when you have your morning coffee in a specific place, you already have your journal laid out, you already have your pen, and then you put the coffee in and you start writing. It will create that practice, and the more you do it, the easier it will be for you to do.
Yes. And you can incorporate art in there. You can make it creative. It can be
Yeah, it could
whatever
be
you want it to
expressive.
be.
I mean, many, if we look throughout the history, a lot of people, like all the philosophers, they have been journaling. Like we can see that there was this practice going back, like historically far.
Yeah, and they had
And
like reflections in there and they had art, like they
mhm,
would draw things out and they would like contemplate and meditate and all of these
yeah,
things.
but now all those materials are like, they're like books, and we study the past, the history throughout those journals.
Yeah.
So the importance of journaling is not just, you might be leaving something for your for your ancestors to look into. I don't know, who knows? Like Anne Frank, right? She was just journaling, but look how impactful now the book is and her journals are. for people to even know how the person was feeling and understand how it was for her to be and live throughout those times, for us to kind of like dive in into the peek into the situation and into that historically impactful events.
Yeah.
What you're like,
My
what?
my journals are definitely not like something anybody would be able to read. My journals are like they're just a mess of things that don't even make sense. But it's
Well,
okay. It's just our like the thoughts and emotions that I'm getting
yeah.
out and releasing.
But yes, a lot of people do travel journaling, which that could be turned into the book too.
Mm.
And dream journaling. I mean, I have very extensive, colorful, detailed dreams, and I write when as soon as I wake up. I really remember them, so I often just sit down and write them out, especially the dreams they're repetitive, and then I analyze it and kind of see what, because I can also connect them to certain events. Like my inner self or like my higher self usually just tells me what will be happening, and it's really interesting when I analyze my dreams how they connected to my daily life and my structure, like what I am doing after I'm having those dreams, or like what is coming out for me when those dreams are appearing, which I think is really cool.
That's really cool. So you are journaling.
Oh yeah, I am, but not like, not the way again, perfectionism, not the
Mhm.
way I want to.
Not the way you're picturing the perfect journal to
Not
be.
the way I'm picturing a perfect journaling to be. Yes, it's just like everything in my life. It's so exhausting. I'm so tired of this perfectionism, and I really I cannot wait for it to be transformed. That's what I would say, because I don't think I want to get rid of it completely, but I definitely want to transform in something that I don't really worry about it so much.
Yeah.
But you can
That's a
also
great thing
do.
to journal on.
Mhm. Oh, and the other thing that I thought was really interesting, because I'm bilingual, I'm multilingual person, and for the like scientists has been asked, like, is it makes a difference in which language you journal, especially if you like do an expressive writing about the traumatic event to gain some health benefits. Does it matter if you journal in whatever language? So what's interesting about it was that it is better if you mix in, like if you mix languages in the process. So
Mhm.
basically whatever comes up in whatever language, you just write it out without worrying that it's in one language. So it could be like four different languages in the same journal, depending how many of them you know, which I thought was really interesting, which makes sense, because then it means you really letting things out. And there's certain things that I've learned because I moved to United States when I was 24. So has been a lot of the things that I only know in English. And obviously I know how to translate it into Ukrainian, Russian, or what other languages, but it's the core knowledge that you recorded in your brain was in this language. And when you really relaxed, you just let your things come out through you in whatever language it was recorded and whatever language it needs to be processed in.
That's interesting.
Hmm.
I have had a few like journal entries in Romanian, which like not very often, but sometimes they just wanted to come out in Romanian.
Hmm. Yeah, because it's still something there. You still, that language is still embedded in your head.
Yeah.
I wanted to take a look at the channeling though, because I've not done, and I know this practice is used widely in the spiritual world, right? A lot of people do, like, it's almost like fortune telling through journaling, right? They write out, especially like mediums. A lot of mediums do the channeling. What do you think about that? Have you heard about it, and what do you think about that practice?
Yeah, I've heard about that practice and I've actually used a form of it, like journaling with the inner voice. So I will place a question from the mind and then I will tap into the intuition and let the intuition answer, like the inner voice answer
Mhm.
through writing. I actually found that it's easier to do like channeled type writing by typing because I can close my eyes and like go more within. But
Mm.
I think also a great tool to tap into that intuitive side of us and get answers, and sometimes we have answers that surprise the mind.
So channeling, it's also called like stream of consciousness or automatic writing. It's basically that like you receive information from an outside source that is not us, like beyond our conscious mind. And then when you become that vessel, that transmitter through which information comes in, and that, you can journal those thoughts out. You can translate them through you into the human language, let's say, and it can brings a lot of insights and wisdom, and I don't know, anything, absolutely anything can come through it. And I know people do it for themselves, and a lot of people use this tool as a, you know, helping others to understand what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Just
But I
like,
will say I think this is going to happen like less and less, because the last few times I've connected with like inner voice of some other people, the inner voice has been like, you guys already know everything you need to know. You just got to integrate it into your world. So like now our awareness and our consciousness is raising up to this place where I don't think that many of us are going to need to channel, or we're going to need to channel as often. We just need to become more integrated in here in who we are.
mhm. Yeah, for sure. We're definitely expanding, and we are more in tune with ourselves, and we can hear more, understand more, feel more. Intuition is way more developed, and more people are becoming awake. So yeah, soon enough, there will be no need to go to the tarot readers. You'll be able just to do know all of that yourself. Which is interesting how the everything evolves. I'm sure people will still be like looking for the outside guidance.
Oh yeah. It's easier, right, to get the guidance for somebody else than it is for yourself sometimes, because
Yes, absolutely, 100%. Even if you know all the answers, you still doubt, like, oh, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe that's not right. Maybe this is not
yeah,
what needs to be done.
because you're clouded by your own emotions and
Hmm.
judgments and beliefs and thoughts. Yeah. So if you want to start journaling, there's multiple ways you can start journaling. It's very accessible. I mean, you could just do pen to paper in a notebook. You can use a notes app on your phone. I mean, there's like no excuse here. You can use a notes app. You can even do a voice note to yourself if you're processing something. Like imagine you're just having this conversation, getting all your thoughts out. Although I do like writing it down, I feel like that's what works best for me. But I you can also do a voice note made app, like a voice note on your phone. Maybe that's what works best for you. You can also just type it up on the computer in a document, or you can get wild and creative and do art journaling or bullet journaling,
Hmm.
or get one of those guided journals like we mentioned. I actually have one of those as well. Like there's the 5 minute journals, but I got like a spiritual journal that I liked for a little bit. Hold on, I'm gonna read the prompt. Look at the prompts in it.
Okay.
All right, so it has like a morning page, and evening page, and it's about the intentions of the day, like the energy you want to put in the world, the experiences you want to receive, the goals for self care, and like something inspirational you saw. And then at the end of the day, you write out some experiences that stood out, how you felt, gratitude of the day, and what you want to release from the day. And I think that's nice too, like
Yeah, to
having
start
something
with.
with prompts like that.
Yeah, which you can absolutely just write them for yourself. Like have one or
Yeah.
two or three, and it's this is really cool.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Today, we talked about journaling, what journaling is, what it's good for, how we can journal, and what are some ways with some different types of journaling that we can do. We talked about our own experiences with journaling and our journey with it, and whether we like it or not.
Yes. And I would definitely, this episode will come out at the beginning of the year, I would definitely suggest for you to create a manifestation journal or like a wish journal. Just write out all the wishes, all the things that you would want to be doing. And don't worry about them being maybe not, not possible or not possible for you. Just write out everything. The more, the better. It sort of helps you to develop that. There's this organ in our body in our brain that it's called reticular activation system, which the more you look into possibilities, the more possibilities present themselves to you. So with creating this manifestation journal, you'll be able to see different ideas and different ways to go and maybe make your year even more impactful and more amazing, uh, the most amazing that you could possibly make it.
I love that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Write your wishes out, place your wishes out there, and let us know if you've been journaling and how you enjoy it, what your favorite type of journaling is. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Make sure you're following us on Instagram and you can message us and connect through us there. Our Instagram handle is at Lab of Life Podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you share it with somebody you know that might enjoy it as well.